it's so great to meet you. I read your history, and man, I mean, what a career you've had. I mean,
Thank
in the health industry as well as motion pictures and music. Um, it seems to me like it's kind of a jump from owning health studios to making motion pictures. How did that happen?
Well, to be honest, the writing came first, and that's what moved me from New York to California. And I went after that whole writing career, whether it be scripts or music, and then I made the leap. Um, I was getting in shape. In 1988, I was 25 years old, and that was when I first got sober, and I was underweight and a drug addict, and I joined a gym.
Hmm.
I got into really good shape and fell in love with being in shape and getting into shape. So when I got a regular job, when screenwriting and music writing wasn't paying the rent, I held it for like 6 years. It was in the PR business. I got fired.
What a great motivator.
I know, right? I mean, it really was because, you're really like thankful for that dark moment that turned out to be the best thing ever. I was devastated on that day. I thought I was going to spend my life doing it, even though I hated it, which is ultimately what got me fired, because you can't write that. So I took a job at a fitness studio for $8 an hour, and I was able to take classes all I want. So the whole I started taking like 17 classes a week, and I fell in love with it. A teacher didn't show up, and they said, "Well, get in there. You take so many classes, go teach it." And I did, and that became my class. And then 3 people quit, and those all became my classes. And I had 27 classes a week after teaching once after 3 weeks. So it just sort of happened, and then the place closed down rather abruptly. Like I literally showed up for my Saturday 4 o'clock class, which coincidentally was the first class I took over for the teacher that didn't show. And the owner said, "We're closed tomorrow. That's it." I hadn't been paid for a month, and I was again devastated. I mean, this was my livelihood. At that point, I had a job at the Weather Channel. I was teaching in the morning and teaching in the night and teaching on all the weekends. I mean, I was just kept myself busy. But then when that place closed, I did not know this, but other people sought me out like Golds and Crunch because they heard that I had really strong classes at this fitness studio, and that I had a following, and they knew about me, and they wanted me to teach. So I did. I worked at Golds for a while, and then 2 of my students, clients, we're all students, were in my class at the fitness studio, and we were having lunch. I would trade them lunch for private sessions, and because I just loved them. And I said, "All right, I'll train you. You take me lunch." So we started talking about doing something together. They had the means. Rachel wanted to manage something. She had been an actress, and she said, "There's too many blondes. I don't want to do it anymore." But she wanted something, just like I did, to sink her teeth into. John, at the time, her husband, was a lawyer, and he had some money saved. So she pretty much said, "John, give me your money. Barry and I are opening the studio." And that was the first Barry's. The Barry's Boot Camp was her name, her idea. I came up with Boot Camp. She said, "Barry's Boot Camp."
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I got this thing about, like, even as we speak, like I'm on camera, there's half of me that's completely uncomfortable.
Me too.
Okay, good.
So
It's the behind the camera I love. In front of the camera, I don't know how people do it. So that was it. It was born. We opened coincidentally, in the fitness studio that closed down was taken over by many other businesses. It was pretty big. It had different rooms, but there was one room left. The room I always thought was being misused and could be a much better room for a much bigger workout. And we took that room and a quarter of the lobby that was left, and that became Barry's Boot Camp in October 2nd, 1998.
What a great training ground, though, for understanding the business end of show business, because being in charge of your own thing. I mean, one terrible decision, drives you into the poorhouse.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, although I've made many.
Yeah, I have my own set of keys to the poorhouse.
Yes. Fortunately, they're hanging on a do not use.
Yeah.
Over there. It's I'm a creative at the end of the day. This was explained to me. This is not something I came up with, and not necessarily always the best businessman. So it's really good to have like a manager or direction or a producer and somebody looking after those things. So I'm not the sole person making all those decisions.
Were you a fan of horror and terror when you were a kid growing up in New York?
I was a weird kid. I'm not the only kid to love horror. I'm just saying I was a weird kid. I loved musicals and horror movies. And those were my two things. And I was knee deep, head over heels for both. Completely.
Thank God for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because that combined both.
About it. I saw it. I lived in a place called Rockland County, and it played in Nyack at the Cinema East on 59. And I must have seen it 100 times at the midnight showing once I was like 16.
Your first script that you wrote was a horror movie.
Oh yeah. I only really like writing horror, although I find myself with The Way Out. I found because it was so based on personal trauma that it ended up being 35% horror and 65% drama.
Which is an interesting combination. Now the film itself is based in your life. I mean,
yeah.
Some of your personal tragedy.
I should say all of my writing. I don't know where to get it else from. Even if I'm writing now the most obscure, never happened to me type script, and ends up coming from personal experiences that bleed into it. But The Way Out was different. The Way Out, I decided to tap a particular personal trauma that changed the shape of my life, my thinking, how I lived, what fears were, and applied it.
As a single mom, I want to make sure my kids have healthy teeth. Going to the dentist can be expensive. Just a simple cleaning can cost over $100. Then I found TDA, and for about $1 a day, Total Dental Administrators covers my family on over 200 dental procedures. Whether you're an individual, a family, self-employed, or retired, your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these policies. Call or click for your free information kit and see how affordable dental health can be.
I grew up in LA knowing a lot of writers, science fiction writers. Rod Serling was a mentor of mine, and
Stop.
Yeah, and Ray Bradbury. And
Die Hard.
Really?
I have Twilight. I have my Talkie Tina doll looking at us.
My aunt was the voice of Talking Tina, June Ferrer.
No. You don't understand. There's a case of Twilight Zone bobbleheads over there. My Twilight Zone companion book is right there. This is growing up. This was my TV show. I read on them, and I know the backstories. Oh my God, I'm flipping out right now.
And every episode was perfect. It was a perfect 30-minute movie with a moral. Perfect. So those are the things I grew up with, and always longing to see. Even the ones that he did that were like, if I could drop one for you, a game of pool with Jonathan Winters and Jack Klugman.
Jack Klugman.
It's not it's not based in horror. It's just this wonderful dialogue between two characters, and it's spellbinding.
Yeah, all of them had me. Also, what's it called? The Mile, the Distance.
Yeah, the walking distance.
Walking Distance. Thank you. That's my favorite one, actually, and it's not really horror. And that's Ron Howard's first role.
Yeah. Well, Ron Howard was in a few of them. Pip.
Yes, but
Fraser
that was his first one. That was season 1, episode 5. I told you it's really bad. He played the little boy at the very end, talking to him.
Yeah. So all of those episodes and all the things we grew up with watching all mesh into your movie, because when I was watching The Way Out, I felt like I was watching an extended Twilight Zone.
Really?
Yeah.
You could not give me a bigger, better compliment. That's amazing. Thank you.
Well, it's wonderfully written, and I love your use of Sherry Shepherd in this.
She's amazing. I always knew she was amazing, and I loved her from 30 Rock. But the truth is, I had seen her in Precious,
Yeah,
and Cornrows, and it just did not leave me. Now, I did not. One of our producers, Carl, knew her agent and said, "What about Sherry Shepherd?" And then I went screaming, "Sherry Shepherd!" So the answer was obviously, "Will she do it?" So she was a joy to work with. She, so much of comedy is based in tragedy, but
yeah.
she.
And that's why I always say comedians sometimes make the best dramatic actors, because it's just a different outlet for their emotions.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, look at Robin Williams, God bless. And he was one of my favorites, but I mean, he started out so much comedy and he ended up with so much drama.
Well, he was a Juilliard trained actor, and what was it? 1 Hour Photo just blew me away.
Love 1 Hour Photo. That actually might be one of my favorite roles of his.
Does music, because you are a songwriter and a musician, does music play a part in writing scripts? Do you hear cadences and rhythms?
I don't know about that per se. It certainly worked its way in as a songwriter for Alex in the movie. And I did have songs in the background of a couple of scenes that you would just, I'm credited at the end, but they're just background songs. You would not know they're mine. They're not like front and center. So I get to use my musical skills in some way. I'm not gonna lie, it all saves money. It's not egocentric. It's
You are a producer. But in putting together, first of all, in understanding even where to place your camera, that's a natural ability, isn't it? Because you can go to school forever, but until you start doing it, you have no concept about the trials and tribulations of being a director, where the light is.
Well, I learned the hard way, although I would not change it. I learned by starting by doing a little teaser for one of my scripts and directing that. Very short, ended up being like a 2 to 3 minute teaser, and then I just dove in. I directed Ashes, my first feature, and that actually just was my film school.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of how it came out, but looking back at it, and I do look back at my work objectively to learn from my own mistakes, and also to see what I did that I liked and what I carry with me, but mostly it's to say, oh, I won't do that again. I know what I'll do next time. So I think The Way Out is definitely hands down my best work, my most professional work. Even the second one was a leap as a director for me, from learning from the first one, Killer Therapy.
Yeah.
The shots are different, the camera is different, but you have to have a great DP, and I've been very blessed. In my opinion, a director is only as good as his DP.
Exactly. Do you use the same DP mostly?
I use Jay Lee. Very lucky to get Jay Lee. He did Zombie Strippers and whatnot for the first 2. And then I used Dominic Savilli for The Way Out. And he had the red camera, and that was a first for me.
Wow.
My first movie was in the Canon 5 3D. Canon 5D, not 3D. And the second one was the Canon 4K cinema camera.
Oh, that's a beautiful camera.
Beautiful camera. And we got a lot more amazing shots, and the editor had a lot more flexibility.
Yeah.
So that was great. But then when I met Dom online, like, because it was COVID times, and we met on Zoom, and I loved him immediately. He's one of the most lovable people on the face of the planet. He had the red camera, and I got super excited because I've always wanted to work with. I mean, everyone wants to work with the red camera, and he's a magician. I can just tell you, he is a magician. He makes me look like I'm 5 times the director I am.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. This is a serious problem, but one we can solve. Visit feedingamerica.org to help. Together we can solve hunger. Together we're feeding America.
John Carpenter would be proud of you, I think.
Oh, another one of my inspirations. Rod Serling, John Carpenter, and George Romero.
Yeah, well, George Romero is just, he's just a genius when it comes to, taking nothing and making it just scary as hell.
He's so brilliant. He's the reason I spend my own money on Ashes, because of what he did for Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
And everyone said, don't spend your own money. I said, wow, I'm glad George didn't listen to them, because there wouldn't be a Night of the Living Dead if he did.
Or it would be so different that it wouldn't be Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
Once you take other people's money, you they tend to want to control you.
Yes. They have opinions. They have actors.
I have a niece that I want,
Which, by the way, if they're actually talented, is fine. Totally fine. However, if they're not, that's a different story.
Would you consider writing and doing just a straight comedy?
So, I don't know, this is close. My husband and I, and there's a long story as to why that I won't go into if you don't want me to, but
No, fine.
my husband and I just finished our first draft of a Christmas script. It's called it's a Christmas movie. It's a little edgier than Hallmark. It's better suited for like Lifetime or Netflix, but it's not so edgy that it can't be softened if Hallmark actually wants it. But it is a great idea, and I have never seen it. And I, by the way, along with horror and musicals, next up is Christmas. So I've never seen a Christmas movie with anywhere near this storyline.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like it might be the first new storyline for Hallmark.
I have a few of those in my mind as well, that every time I see one of these things, I just want to, rewrite them so that they seem to be all the same after a while. It's just numbing to watch 3 in a row.
Yes, but my sister, and this is the story, so she passed in October from stage 4 cancer.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. It was a long, long battle, and I was with her on the couch and in the bed until the very last breath. She watched Christmas movies every day, all year long. And she would watch, there was 3 of them, Christmas Under Wraps, Christmas Getaway, and A Very Merry Mix-Up. Those were the 3 that were in heavy rotation. She watched others, lots of others, but those 3 were in heavy rotation. And in her last week of being alive, I must have seen Christmas Under Wraps 17 times. I could start saying the dialogue with them. So the actual script we're writing started out based on a character who stays home and watches Christmas movies every day.
It sounds fantastic. Don't pitch it, because we're a national show, and I don't want anybody stealing that idea from you.
But I'll just give you that little nugget, because that was my sister. So
well, what a lovely way to base a movie, though, too.
Yes. We did this. We started writing it very shortly after she passed, and she's right there. And I talk to her. I talk to her all the time. So
I live in Utah, which is Christmas movie central. This is where they shoot all the Christmas movies for Hallmark, and it's always, there's always something being shot downtown Salt Lake City.
Wow, that's where they're thinking. We were going to shoot Like Father Like Son in Vegas, and that's where I am. But I just heard yesterday that it'll probably be Utah, and I got excited because I've always wanted to go to Utah.
Do you need a bald bartender for anything?
I will.
That's my look.
That is good to know.
Yeah. All this is just my audition for you.
You're doing great.
Yeah. Well, now what about animation and getting into other things, Barry? I mean, do you enjoy like contemplating those things and saying, I want to write a nice animated film?
No. I mean, I'm a Disney-aholic.
That's too bad.
Yeah, right. As far as sitting down and watching Beauty and the Beast or Cinderella or any of the Disneys or the Pixars all day, every day, I don't care. That's great. I love them. Love them. I have no desire, zero zilch to write any of them.
Barry J., it is such a pleasure and honor to chat with you for this this half hour. And as soon as I'm done with this editing and all that, I'll send you a copy of the interview. And my gosh, it's like I said, it's just a
Thank you.
Fantastic time I had.
Thank you. Me too. I had such a great time.
Not really much of an interview as reminiscing, but it was just a joy. I hope the audience enjoys
I
hearing.
hope so too. Just all the reminiscing and stuff. But
Feels like we're sitting at a table in a restaurant and people around us are listening to our conversation. That's what this is.
But you know what? If we were in a restaurant, they would be listening.